Hey folks, and happy Halloween! Welcome to another episode of We Read It One Night, the podcast where we get silly about romance novels. Today I'm joined by guest host Dana to talk about a book that was basically written to be talked about on this podcast, Rejar by Dara Joy. All I'll say is that this hero turns into a cat. Not a panther or a tiger or a lion or like a big manly cat. A tiny house cat. And it is perfect. Thank you so much to the listener who suggested this. If you'd like us to do a particular book, feel free to slide into our DMs or email us, or stick it in the rating and review that you're definitely going to leave while you're listening. Enjoy the show. Hello, listeners. Happy Halloween! Woo! At least I think this is coming out on Halloween. If it's not, then, I don't know, consider it a belated or pre-Halloween. Well, it's definitely not pre-Halloween.
Get in the spirit.
Anyway, spooky time. And today I am joined by Dana. You may remember her from our, Savannah Secrets.
I know, because it's the last thing on Hoopla that I read.
Our Savannah Secrets episode, because that's when she guest hosted last.
That's right.
And now she's back, and obviously we were going to have her come back with the
Vengeance.
guest host come back with vengeance. Today we are doing, and I just realized I don't know the author of this.
Dara Joy.
Is it?
Yeah, because
Wow.
I kept Googling this.
Dara
And
Joy.
everyone thought on Google that I was looking up The Matrix, but it's not The
No.
Matrix.
It's a little wacky. It's kind of wacky like The Matrix.
Different.
We're doing Rejar by Dara Joy. And this wasn't so much a listener suggestion as it was a listener demand. And I say that as not because the listener who suggested this was like, pushy about it, but because I feel like we brand ourselves as a cat lady romance podcast. And
So hoping this would come up.
we cannot call ourselves a cat lady romance podcast and not do a book in which the hero is an alien who can turn into a cat. And like not like a lion or a panther or like a house cat, a black house cat.
Like, there's a lot to talk about. Like, there's so many, it's not even layers to it. It's just, there's so many, you can't cover it all.
Okay, there's a lot. So this is the second book in a series, but we haven't read the first one, and I don't think you need to.
No.
Although there are, like, because this is an older romance, and a lot of times in, like, big series and older romances, you'll have, like, the side scenes of, like, other
They
couples.
allude to the
So,
previous
like,
couple.
we had, like, unlike in modern romance where you really don't get scenes except from the couple or the people in the relationship, this one had, like, little side scenes of, like, I guess the previous book's couple, and, like, this spooky old magic man who like knows all, I guess. Like I don't really know. I didn't write his name down. He's just magic
like
man.
Jorgen or something like that.
Something like that. I don't know. Okay, so the premise of this book, we have Rejar, obviously, who is Rejar. I love this audiobook narrator, by the way. And to quote from the book, it was said they walked in two forms, both human and cat. Okay, we're going to be doing a lot of giggling, so I want to preface this by saying that I genuinely love this book.
This book was,
Like,
was a wild ride.
It's silly, but it's genuinely, like, I was entertained. I was staying up. I stayed up late last night.
I actually did, I have to tell
Yeah.
you, in the spirit of, we read it one night, I read this in like 12 hours.
Yeah.
And my fiance was like, dude, you're not even done chapter 1 when I texted you last night. It's like, yeah, we're still good for 2 tomorrow. I was like, yeah, there's 19 chapters in this bad boy. And
It's like 11 hours.
I'm like, you don't understand, there's 2 English degrees that are going at this one. So we're actually going to probably read this in one night.
I was like, this isn't really... I'm so entertained.
The entire time, from start to finish, it was just, it's like the
There was
log
never a
flume
moment.
that would never end.
I was listening to it in a car yesterday, and when I tell you I was cackling, I was in Walmart and I was listening to it, and I was like, I'm so glad I'm wearing a mask right now because no one can see the way I'm maniacally cackling behind this mask.
I'll say this, I without getting too specific, I work at how you say a Catholic school. I do office like administrative work in there, and
am I allowed to say it's the one that I went to?
It is the one that Allison went
Rachel
to.
and I have talked about our trauma at the hands of nuns, and Dana now works at that school.
That's right.
So, I mean, life is a circle.
But yeah, it's right now. It's the summer. It's like the off months. So I'm like, okay, whatever. There's less people who are going to come into the office. I'm sure I can play this audiobook low. The opening line, I memorized it. The opening line of this bad boy, this cat-infested monstrosity of a fantastic book. He was a totally sexual creature. I go, all right, and this is not something I'm going to get done early.
Headphones in.
Immediately off. I was like, I guess I got to do work today.
Okay, so he's from like a race of aliens called the Familiars, who seem to be like their entire purpose is just to fuck.
Yeah.
It seems. And specifically, so it's a very heteronormative alien race.
Oh, he makes it abundantly clear. He loves women.
No, but he even has a thought. He's like, familiars aren't gay. Because like he's like meets a guy who's like flirting with him.
A guy.
Well, many guys.
No, but there's one big guy.
Well, we have to get to that. It's a reveal. He meets a guy who's flirting with him, and he's like, oh, familiars don't feel that way. So it's a very heteronormative race, but specifically, it seems that not only as an alien race are they designed for boning, but specifically the males are like their life's purpose is to provide as many orgasms as possible to females.
He is what he loves, and that is cat.
Yeah.
He loves cat.
He loves pussy. The fact that there wasn't, I mean, listen, I understand why there wasn't a pussy joke, because this does take place in Regency England, and like pussy wasn't really like a euphemism then, but like missed opportunity.
Barely. What was it all for, Dara? What was it all for? Allison sent this to me, by the way, another just precursor. Allison sent this saying, hey, do you want to like co-host another episode? And I said, obviously, yes. And Allison sent me a list of books that, you know, oh, here's like the first two. And then like, if these don't spark your interest, here are a list of other ones that, you know, you should look into. It was at the very bottom. It had to be, I was like, there's sexy alien life forms that turn into house cats. And let me tell you something. This house cat literally wastes no time as a man or as a tiny little like purse animal.
And this book was hot, by the way. Like I was hot. Like genuinely like even before like they were physical at all, he was like talking about, he's like, I'm gonna keep her up all night. And I was like, I'm like already getting excited. Like it's been a long time since that's happened to me.
I'm telling you. And let me tell you, so I will say this as maybe fair warning. This book is not for people who are like, not no means no, but let me tell you, if you're like, I don't think the chase is very sexy, this is not the book for you.
He calls it the hunt.
Yeah, literally, he calls it the hunt. He alludes to her as prey, but also in a lovey-dovey way. Listen, I was like,
no, this is very much...
This is a divisive type of romance. I'm on board. I was like, this stupid cat alien is 100% with me.
We have, well, this is I think 99. It was published in 99. So it's like, it's from that era. I mean, like, she's like,
you're ghastly.
Yeah,
you are a beast, and I've never.
Like, there's like definitely times when she's explicitly like, no, Rejar, don't. But then it's like the no. It's like
as she pulls him closer.
Yes, it's the classic romance, early romance. No, of like, well, we can't have her want it too much.
Dara went, how do I get away with this? Let's put it in Regency England.
Oh my god, I loved it. I really want to know. The narrator pronounced it so weird, and I really want to know how it was written. And there was a moment when he gets really angry, and at first I was like, oh no, this is like an early romance. Like, is he gonna like spank her or something? Because like,
oh no,
that's a thing. But like not in a sexy way, in like a punishment way. No, he's just like, I'm gonna give you as many orgasms
I know.
as I possibly can.
And I'm like, wow, that'll show me.
Oh no.
God, I don't know if I'll learn my lesson.
Slap on the wrist. Oh,
right.
Don't.
God, don't. And this man is also like, when he's not and I really do mean, like, I just imagined like a fist-sized house cat. Like the way that she talks about this, like just like the cutest little piece of crap.
With multicolored eyes. It's important.
Oh, it's very important. He has gold and blue separate eyes.
He has there's an actual thing it's like heterochromia or something like that. Yes. There's like a word for that. He has that.
Which is timelessly beautiful.
Yes.
But when he's not that like adorable little purse cat,
meow, meow, meow.
He's like, what is he supposed to be? He's like 6, and a half, like approaching. Yeah.
This man is like Henry Cavill
He's like a
in The Witcher. He's Henry Cavill in The Witcher with black hair.
Yes.
Like, that's what you should be picturing.
Yeah. Yeah. Specifically that. And she's like, you're not my house cat. And he's like, I can't believe she doesn't believe me.
He literally transforms into this house cat in front of her. Okay, we're getting our head over. We're getting way.
When I tell you there's so much to, there's layers to this.
There's so much to unpack.
I don't know how you're going to edit this. There's so much. So to your point of like, I never felt weird about like his dynamic with her.
Yeah.
To my shock, I was the most uncomfy when this alien man was a cat.
Cuddling with her?
Yeah. I'm like, to be fair, at night, stop.
At night, he transforms back into the man and then convinces her she's dreaming so they can, like, do the hanky-panky.
And every time they start to get, like, a little bit frisky because, as you said, he's a cat. She took him in. He's like, the bosom on this beautiful woman. Her name is Lilac because she,
of course,
is not like other girls.
You know, actually, first of all, she doesn't really have any friends, so we don't really get any, like, comparisons. So, like, she's not like other girls, but we're not getting beat over the head with, like, she's not like other girls.
Yes. There is, like, a sequence where he's like, she could be out in this, like, sinful above London. I think they're supposed to be in London.
Yeah, they're in London.
But she prefers to be in her garden reading with her cat.
Yeah.
4 hours, he says.
To be fair, to be fair, he does hate London for a very good reason.
Yes.
But I do feel like there's a part of the end where I was like, Dara, you're a complex woman that, like, could have been one-dimensional.
Yeah. The other one female in the book be...
Well, there's the... Okay, anyway.
Okay.
Ahead of ourselves. We're getting so ahead of ourselves. So, premise. Rejar, because of something that I assume happens in the first book in the series, he has to go through, like, timey-wimey portal things, whatever.
The tunnels,
which are like,
part
interdimensional... They're, like, interdimensional, like, stuff. Isn't it funny? This book probably came out, like, at the same time as The Matrix.
Yeah.
That's probably what she's probably.
And I would have bought a ticket to see this movie and been woefully disappointed.
Barbie movie Rejar.
Oh my God.
Double feature.
Greta Gerwig, I beg you.
She's doing the Narnia movies.
I saw it today. She's making 2 more. The Lion, the Witch, and the Wardrobe is absolutely flawless score.
Fabulous.
I forget who did it, but you know who you are, and I admire your work.
You're listening to this.
I know you are. I know you're just a big old whore for Rejar.
I know most of our listeners, I know from, like, downloads, most of our listeners, you only really listen to the episodes of, like, books that you've read. Like, some of you are, like, super loyal and, like, listen to everything.
You must read this book.
But here's my thing. I think you can even... we haven't even finished recording this episode, and I already know in my soul that I think even if you don't read this book, which you should listen to this episode.
You must listen to this episode, but you just do yourself a favor, have a hot girl Halloween, read this.
So he falls through time because of some stuff.
Sure.
For plot reasons. He falls into the carriage where Lilac is riding with Auntie Wumples, which I love.
She's the greatest.
I love Auntie Wumples. She's the classic, like, maiden, like, wacky aunt. Stop that! She's amazing. Anyway, she lands in there, and they're like, and Lilac is immediately like, that's my cat. Auntie Wumples is like, no,
she's a beast.
She's already an old maid. If she has a cat, it'll be...
I think she's supposed to be, what is she, 22?
She's 20.
She's 20?
She just turned 20.
So obviously she's a wrinkly old bag, and this aunt is like, get this woman off of my hands because she's disintegrating in front of me.
Well, no, because Lilac
her eggs are dying.
And the aunt varies is like an old maid on purpose. Like, it wasn't like for lack of opportunity. She, like, very specifically was like, none of y'all are up to my standards. I'm not going to marry you.
They do allude to old Wumples being pretty hot.
Absolutely.
Like, she's like a
the
vintage
number
wine.
of times a new man that isn't
will
Rejar
wink at this woman
pops into the room and is like, oh, look at her. And just like they'll just be an aside, like he eyed the woman like up and down. Like she was hot. You know what? She's probably what, in like her 40s, 50s?
Probably.
You know what I mean? Like she's still, like she's still got it.
I think, yeah. I don't know why this book is about lilac. I want Wumples.
Listen, at the end, Wumples goes to the alien world with them. So if there isn't a book for Lady Auntie Wumples.
Yes. Just doming this alien cat race. But not all of them are alien cats, and that's important.
Yes, it's just the familiars. Yes. And there are a bunch of other alien races. So, like...
There's too much to talk about.
There's too much to talk about.
Okay, so you were saying that Rejar falls through time into this carriage with hot Lilac and hot Auntie Wumples.
Yes.
Lilac decides to take the little beast home because she just wants a cat. And this is concerning because she's an old 20-year-old who wants a cat and is unmarried.
Well, because they were on the way to a party, and basically, like, Auntie Wumples is like, you can't keep him. And Lilac is like, if he's still here when we come back, like, we're going to do it. And Rejar, like, in his mind is like... here. He's so funny. It's like so...
He only speaks in Batman dialect.
I can't mimic the voice. Like, the voice is just so funny. Not the narrator part, like the writing, like the tone.
No, for sure.
Like, it's that special kind of, like, I feel like 90s and early 2000s book funny that I feel like I don't read anymore. Like, not just in romance. Like, there was just a particular way of writing.
There's a humor to him. Does not understand this world.
No.
But he's gonna girl boss his way through it.
First thing he does is he goes into her room. She's like, cuddle up with me on the bed. And then he transforms back into human form. And he is naked. That is important.
Yes,
that actually,
every time.
He's naked when the transformation does not bring over his clothes. It's like the Twilight werewolves in that. And then she, like, wakes up, but he's like, it's a dream. Because, like, he has, like, the power to influence people, like, with his mind. Like, not to control them, but to, like...
Put him in a dream,
give him a suggestion.
Yes.
So he's like, this is a dream. Like, you're awake, but, like,
he has very suggestive suggestions.
And he spoons her, and I was just sitting there, and I was like, the consent fairy is being burned at the stake. And I don't care one bit.
The consent fairy's wings get plucked one by one as this book goes on.
Don't give a fuck. That bitch can burn in hell.
And when it runs out of wings, we pull it out by the hair strands. Because we are in Regency, England. But yeah, then she's like, I had the best sleep of my life last night. Where's my cat?
And then she's like, it's
weird.
Like,
I know where your cat is. I was the cat the whole time.
Not yet.
Not yet.
Not yet. So she, like, wakes up and she's like, what should I name my cat? And then she's like, I had this weird dream. Like, I should name him Rejar. Because he, like, whispered the name.
You know in The Little Mermaid when he's like, can I guess your name? And there's, like, a billion names that Prince Eric could pick from. And then a voice, small Jamaican voice, goes, Ariel. Her name is Ariel. And then Ariel aggressively nods. That was the tone of Rejar's name being chosen. And honestly, it was the worst decision. It really backfired on him, being like, you should name your cat Rejar.
He really played himself with that. It does become, like, a contentious part of their relationship.
Yes.
Later on.
Arguably the most.
We have a microtrope where he's like, I've never been more turned on by a person in my life. And it must just be because I haven't boned in a while, and not because there's anything special about this woman. And I love this microtrope. I love when the hero is just the hot dummy. And Rejar spends so long being a hot dummy.
Rejar has clearly never read enough romance books to know that the absolute ceaseless fire perfume that he's smelling that makes him be like, oh my god, it's her virginity.
Yeah.
You know?
He's constantly like, Lilac is being, like, very difficult, so I'm gonna go fuck someone else just to get out my energy. And then he tries to go fuck someone else, and he's like, oh, but her eyes aren't green, and she doesn't have the right shade of hair.
I was surprised that he didn't fuck someone else. That's usually something that I was like, okay, tried and true. He does, and then they fall in love, and it comes back to bite him later, and she has to forgive him. No, he really does never.
I would say that's not super common in romance.
Oh, special guest star.
Addie's coming in there's a cat door in this room, in the room that we're recording in, so she's not scratching at the door like she usually
She's like,
is.
I find it rude that the titular character of this book is a cat, and you didn't ask my opinion on the matter.
One of the examples of like the way like this author does humor that I really like, where Lilac is like, let's go into the garden and like you can expose your fat belly to the sun, and he's like
Kill shot error.
He has a few thoughts, and then he's like, wait, did she say fat belly? And that's like, that happens a lot where like characters will be like, someone will say something and the character won't process it, and then they'll be like, what? Wait, what? And he's like, does she not recognize solid muscle when she sees
That's
it?
a direct quote. That is a direct quote. He is, again, a fist-sized cat. And he goes, does she not recognize solid muscle when she sees it? And that night, he will attempt to seduce her. Round one.
Yeah, round one, because the hunt has begun. Because one of her suitors come. She has like a suitor come. He's like annoying and like whatever. And Rejar, as a cat, sees him and is like, who is this chump? Like with his, first of all, with short hair. He's like, what if his unmanly short hair?
If your hair is short or up in this book, you are a beta.
Yeah.
According to Rejar. There's nothing this man disrespects more than short or pinned up hair.
That's true. She does. Every time she has her hair up, he just like knocks it out like a cat. He's so cat.
Like a cat,
even
or like a toddler.
Well, cats and like, what's the difference?
Come on.
But yeah, he's like looking at the suitor and he's like, doesn't he know that, quote, the hunt had begun and a familiar had marked his prey?
Didn't you know?
And then at one point the suitor is like, oh, like he tells Lilac she has a frail constitution because he's like a typical like sexist like Regency man. Mm-hmm. And Rejar as a cat is like, I need to specify that like he's in cat form. He's not just like snarling as a human in the back.
No. That comes later.
He's like, what the fuck is this bozo talking about? Like she looks like she has a constitution that could go all night with me. Specifically with me.
Meow.
Listen, the official, like, publisher description begins with, the cat's meow.
Oh my god.
He, as a cat, like, goes out and he, like, explores London, and he's like, it's a world of hideous savagery. Mostly because of the wealth disparity.
Yeah.
And I was like, we love a class-conscious king.
Yeah.
Like, oh my god.
He's Mr. like, power dom. But this man, I'm looking at this cat right now, and this freaking cat is so damn cute. I'm sorry, it's not actually about the book. I'm talking about Addie, Allison's cat right now. This man has like stereotypical like cat eyes, and he's like meow at like children being treated poorly, at total classist BS going on, and there's like a kid, this is important, who's hit by a carriage. And he's like, holds the child in his arms. And
he's a human at this point. He's not.
Yeah, that's important. This child is the size of a Polly Pocket.
That's why it was so easy to hit him with a carriage.
And he sees this kid get hit by a carriage and like holds him and he's dying, and then he like officially dies. And he's like, I'm going to wreak vengeance on the monster that did this. And I was like, there is no way the plot will allow for that much time, but it does.
It comes back.
Dara doesn't start something and not finish it.
That's true.
He ties up every single
the tagline of this book is like, he's a finisher.
He is a finisher.
I'm not saying that Rejar is Batman, but I am saying that I've never seen Rejar and Batman in the same room.
Much like the cat.
Rejar decides he has to have a sick cover story.
Yes.
And basically from
because he needs to start appearing to Lilac as a man.
Right,
so
because
he
can't
woo
fuck her as a cat because cat dicks really hurt. Like, they're not pleasurable. Cat dicks have spikes on them. I've definitely shared this fun fact on the podcast before, and I will continue to share
I thought you were messing with me. Like, how the ducks have like screwdrivers.
No, cat dicks have spikes on them.
In the spirit of, I guess, penetration, if she puts her fingers through his hair, he doesn't remember it finishing. He doesn't remember turning back into a cat. He just completely blacks out.
Well, it's because it's the cat. Because when they first meet, she like scratches him behind his left ear, and he's like, how did she know that is like a secret spot?
You ever met any man ever and they like to have their head scratched?
Oh, yes. Yeah.
Like, oh my God. Dara is spilling the secrets.
They do, though.
Yeah.
I love it.
I'm not a man, but I do enjoy it. Like, my scalp being scratched.
But it's honestly, it's better with short hair. It is. It's better with short hair because your hair, there's not the risk of it getting tangled.
Ooh,
you know what I mean?
And I have curly hair,
I just feel like
it's like a
lot,
nest. Don't touch it.
It's a lot easier to like do like the full running your hand through someone's hair when they have short hair.
Rejar doesn't have short hair,
he has
Allison.
long hair.
He's long hair. So this is the cat instinct.
Yes.
It has nothing to do with being a penis wielding. We should talk about the absolute...
The schlong.
I mean, to not, let's not beat around the bush.
She does, listen,
there is a considerable amount of time going, but it's so
she's about
enormous. I mean, I haven't read the book. I had the audiobook, but it must be a full page of her just saying, but it's
like
massive.
5 minutes. It's like 5 minutes.
And even the main character goes, all right, that's enough. Like, it's unseemly.
Yeah, he's like, all right, like, but don't treat it like it doesn't have feelings, like, simmer down.
It is the one time that you're like, all right, so she's like this like prim and proper Regency England typical young woman who's like, you don't understand the ways of our world. And he's like, your world's ways are stupid. She is just like a slab of meat that she's admiring. He's like, all right, that's enough. Simmer down now.
But he's confused. He's like, well, she's so impressed with my dick. Why the fuck does she not want to fuck? Because she keeps being like, every time he tries to go further, she keeps being like, no, not even in the dream. And then he's like, oh, she must have had really bad sexual partners, and because he doesn't know she's a virgin yet.
Breed
so he's like, I have to like make her see that like not all men are selfish lovers.
Yeah.
Okay, so she at one point she tries to feed him cream, and she's like, oh, would you like some cream? And Rejar as the cat is like, oh yeah, thanks, finally.
Oh hell yes.
But then she just puts like a bowl of cream near him, and he's like, oh.
I was really hoping that would come up.
Damn it. But then he like eats the cream, and she's like, oh, you silly goose, you have it all over your face. And he's like,
I'm not a silly goose. I'm Rejar.
Okay, so it's time for him to put his cover story to action. I don't think I finished explaining what it was. Basically, he's like, I'm going to be a Russian prince, and I'm going to befriend Lord Byron, because he seems to be, like, the top dog in this, like, society.
But it's not, like, an allusion to, like, oh, haha, Lord Byron.
No, it's literally
This is Lord Byron. I was like, I love their dynamic. This alien, freaking 7-foot hulking cat man and Lord Byron.
Listen, to be fair, though, historically, Lord Byron was so annoying that Mary Shelley wrote Frankenstein to get away from him. So really, would it have made the book better? So he sneaks into Byron's party, and he can only fit, he's naked, of course, because, again, he's naked, and he can only fit into a red silk robe that he finds. Like, he can't fit into any of Byron's clothes, so he's, like, walking around this party in nothing but a red silk robe, and everyone was like, oh,
Grandma, how large you are!
How sexy of him!
Because he's like a hot man, he's like the talk of the town. The talk of the ton.
Ton, yeah.
The ton, not the town.
The ton.
He's the talk of the ton. And Lord Byron's like, woo? Who's this?
Woo?
And then he sends like dreamlike, but they're both fully conscious, like signals to Lord Byron.
He does this like suggestive thing.
And he, like in his brain, and he's like, we were hanging out last night, and da-da-da-da. And then he's like, oh yeah, dude, yeah, you look great in that. There's some light flirting that's rejected from Lord Byron to Rejar.
This is when Rejar has the thought of, that basically says that like no familiar, there aren't like gay familiars, basically.
No. He's like, no homo, but can I use your red silken robe?
I mean, he is very specific. He's like, listen, I have nothing against that. Like, whatever makes you happy is just not for me.
He's like, listen, would I? No, but
I'm an ally.
Yeah.
Like, Rejar's
my Target shirt and everything. I'm an ally. But he's gone for 3 days.
Yeah, he's gone for 3 days. He has gone to this party with the intention to fuck, but
every woman is like, oh, my stars, yes. Clutches pearls, and he is the talk of the town, as we said.
Yeah, we get this like haughty widow try to come on to him, but like he turns, basically just like no, like he won't admit it to himself, but no woman is lilac. So
yes,
like he can't fuck them. And then he appears at a party, and the first time she sees him at this party in human form.
This is Lilac.
Yes.
Because he's like, I have to present myself in human form.
And he's masquerading as a Russian prince named Prince Nikolai. And he specifically chooses it because he's like, Russia's far enough away that, like, most of these people have, like, definitely never been there. So, like, I can just say whatever shit I want.
Yeah.
And no one's gonna question it. And he's right. Like,
yeah. It comes up, like, once. They're like, what do you feel about Napoleon? He's like, who's Napoleon? They're like, old chap. Like, and that's it.
What a wit.
It's like, oh, thank God.
But, yeah, she sees him and... the, quote, the prince's intensity could be described as predatory. And I'm like, well, yeah, because he's hunting you. Like that.
Jump cut to small house cat. Hunting predator. So she's like,
she's like, weird. He has
intense and...
He has the same eyes as my cat. It's so weird. What a coincidence.
The same exact eye tones, you know, it's... I would pause a little bit more seeing my new house cat. I'm not saying I would be like, A equals B. My new house cat happens to have the same set of eyes as literally the most magnetic, raw, sexually empowered man I've ever seen in my life.
But also cat-like. Like, in the like, second half of the book, she's constantly like, oh, it's so weird. He's most active around dawn and dusk. Like a cat? The number of times where she's like, oh, he does this. He's like a cat. And then she's like, God damn.
I know this is going to come up at the end, but what a progressive book that the cat scale was so freaking outrageous. But it was for a man in this book.
That's true.
Yeah. I mean, the whole time, she's like I won't even say it.
No, cat baby.
Go on.
Yeah, so she hates him immediately. He's like super, forward into her. And then she immediately is like, fuck you. And she gives him the cut sublime, which is a fun little Regency reference. Yeah. And he's like, I don't know what that means.
He
Wanna
laughs
dance?
at her, yeah.
He's like, okay, wanna dance? They keep having nighttime rendezvous where she thinks it's a fucking dream. And then
these nighttime rendezvous are the funniest thing ever, by the way, because it starts going his way. This happens like 3 or 4 times, am I wrong? And at the end, she out loud is like, well, I should be able to do whatever I want. It's my dream. Yeah. And she's like explaining out loud how it's her dream. Yeah. And both of them keep forgetting that this happened.
Oh, we get an excuse. The reason he like explains, he's like, oh, the reason I'm not fucking other people is because he learns about the pox, aka syphilis.
From the second best character in the book.
From the leprechaun man.
From literally the leprechaun
He is
man.
a leprechaun.
Yeah. We're not going to get a book about that.
Is he a recurring character? Like, is there something... He's like this, like, servant who's supposed to be, like, Cockney English, but then suddenly he has an Irish accent and he dresses like a leprechaun.
Yeah.
So, anyway, yeah, he learns about the syph and he's like, well, I can't risk having my dick fall off. That would literally ruin my entire life. Mm-hmm. And Lilac wakes up and she's like, wow, that was a really after a particularly horny night, like, where, like, I think she comes, potentially. And
the bed is, like, busted up or something like that. There's some, like, description in the room.
Maybe this is later, he rips her nightgown.
Yeah.
And she wakes up and she's like, that's so weird, my nightgown is ripped.
Oh my god, that's, like, so weird. I guess that's what happened when you feel these feelings the first time. You just turn into the freaking Hulk and rip your pajamas off in the middle of the night. Anyway, off to the garden.
Yeah. And she wakes up and she's like, wow, that was a really sexy dream. Like, it was probably just something I ate. Like, yeah. It was probably just food poisoning.
And I'm probably not attracted to this guy, Nikolai.
I love, that's so funny. Speaking of, and I love how you brought up that, like, the cat stuff was almost all the guy. The house cat stuff was almost all the guy. Yeah. Because the like, is this love or do I need a hospital is, like, such a common hero. Yeah. Thing of, like, oh, I feel
You're
this
absolutely right.
And so this time it was her. She was like, hospital? Food poisoning or horniness? Who can say? They go on a carriage ride. And this was a scene where I was openly cackling. Oh, yes. They go in Hyde Park. He, like, basically, like, forces her to go on a carriage ride with him. In Hyde Park.
Again, consent is key, and Lilac gets none of that. Because the Auntie Wumble, we have to say her name because it only attracts good energy. Auntie Wumble and Rejar are like, you're going to go for a carriage ride. She's like, no, I'm not. And they're like, okay, have a good time. Bye. And she is not in the mood for this shit at all. Even if he is the most cosmically gorgeous man in the world, she's like, you cad, I'll never. And he's like, all right, we're here. Let's go for a walk. Yeah.
And then he falls asleep. He falls asleep because he can't sleep because he needs to fuck so hard, but he can't fuck anybody but her. And then he's like, yeah, it's so weird. Like, I only feel comfortable falling asleep next to her.
That is pretty, like, besides,
That's
like,
cute.
The in poor taste of just dragging this poor girl out.
Yeah.
There is no, like, bigger middle finger on a date than the person who took you on the date literally falling asleep. Like, I'm so bored by this.
And the worst part is that he instructed, she's like, I want to go home before he falls asleep. She, like, tells the leprechaun driver, lower class new servant / friend, that she's like, take me home. And then Rejar is like, you're not going to take her home until I tell you to take her home. And so then when he falls asleep...
He's like, oh, don't worry, I'm inherently a misogynist.
When he falls...
But it's okay, because I'm a leprechaun. Don't have to tell me twice.
Rainbows coming out of my ass.
And then he falls asleep.
Yeah, he falls asleep. And the leprechaun man still will be like, well, he didn't tell me to take you home. So this poor girl is trapped in this carriage riding around Hyde Park until 10:30 p.m.
On multiple levels of it being the worst date ever.
She's so unhappy.
Yeah, and then she gets home too late. But it's okay. And it's like, what the heck was that about? And he's like, I fell asleep. And she's like, was she so boring? I was like, oh my God.
He does apologize. He does recognize.
The aunt definitely likes Rejar.
No, she's like at one point, does she tell, I think she tells Lilac this straight up, but she like thinks it a bunch of times of where she's like, I'm a really good judge of character, and like that guy
I've been around the blocks
that guy has
many times in my old age of probably 45.
You know, I'm decrepit.
1 foot in the grave.
Yeah, but he does. So he comes in and apologizing.
It's called Regency, not agency.
Okay, so then we get the best scene, in my opinion, in the entire book. They go to the museum, and he sees, I guess there were like automatons.
Oh my God.
Like mechanical figures.
I was gonna ask you, can you explain this? Like, I don't understand the reference.
I think it was probably just like an actual attraction. So like they go to
these
this
like
museum,
mechanical like animals and like creatures,
and like there's little toy soldiers,
and it's very innovative for the time. So people are like, "Wow, this is so impressive."
Yes, it's like the stuff where it's like you look at that now and you're like, "Why the fuck was anyone like scared?"
Yeah, but back then they're like,
so
you're talking
fake.
to people who would like wave at boats when they
They're like,
"Whoa!"
You're talking to people who would like watch public hangings for fun, which Rejar is also pissed about.
Like, I missed it. Could you go back?
Could you reel him up
Could you do
again?
it again?
Okay, they go to the museum.
They go to the museum and there's these mechanical animals,
figures,
whatever.
and toy soldiers or whatever. And Rejar thinks it's like fucking magic. He's like, this is
insane.
Like,
I am an alien cat man. This is the craziest shit I've ever seen in my life. I've seen a man with short hair. I've seen the unspeakable in the last 24 hours. But this takes the cake.
This is where I draw the line. But he hears someone scream. So like we said, like the old-timey folks were more susceptible to things. So like there's a giant mechanical spider.
And the ladies are screaming in delight.
He's like, I must protect my lady. And he runs and he sees the mechanical spider. He doesn't know it's a mechanical spider. He thinks it's like either a giant fucking evil spider or like a spider being controlled by a wizard. Yeah. And so he pulls a sword off of the wall. He's like, he battles the spider. He battles the spider and he vanquishes it. And Lilac is sitting here like, this fucking dumbass genuinely thinks this robot spider is attacking. Like, he's so stupid. And everybody else is like, oh, like, this is such a fun,
stars.
What a gag. Like, this is so funny. He's so clever.
You know, if you saw that today, it would be like, that man is on the worst acid trip of his life. Like, when she says something or hospitals.
Horniness or hospitals.
Yeah, this is another toss-up.
I mean, listen. Yeah, I don't know whether, like...
What do you say?
Like, I don't know. Like, I'm on a date with a man, a giant mechanical spider comes, and he starts sword fighting with it. I can't say for sure that I wouldn't be aroused.
Well, there are no repercussions to this. So the amount
No, there are benefits.
Yeah, there's only benefits.
It's so fucking cool for this.
They're like, this guy is getting a freaking invite to every party in the ton.
Yes.
And every woman is like,
yes.
I want to see him in that red little silk business.
Yes.
And Lilac's like, that was boorish.
And then we get a little, like, time-lapse thing where we get, like, basically where, like, she's like, like, he keeps showing up wherever I am.
Oh,
he
yeah.
keeps trying to
Apparently
date me.
it's been, like, months.
Yeah, like, it's been a little bit.
And he always knows where I am. And I'm like, okay, so
weird.
he's your cat. So he knows where you're going to be the next day. Have months passed and literally every day? Because this guy does not understand, like, this is how society is. Like, I don't think he's the kind of person who's like, oh, I'm gonna wait a few days because otherwise she'll think I'm desperate. Like, he's literally on the hunt. So has he seen her every day for months?
If she stays at home, like, because there are days when she stays at home.
Yeah.
That I guess.
Well, then of course the aunt likes her.
Mm-hmm.
It's like, she's like, if you don't,
24/7.
I will. This is so stupid.
Girl, porque no los dos. Yeah, but she's like, he keeps trying to date me. And also, completely unrelated, I keep finding these little gifts outside my door. Like, a piece of hair ribbon.
Dude.
Like,
a button.
He's such a cat.
He literally, I was like, yeah. So at this point, he very much desires her. She very much wants to not even be in the same room as him. So what happens?
So, well, he realizes two things. He realizes she's a virgin, and he's horrified.
Yes.
He's like, how is she an adult woman, and she's still a virgin? Like,
at 20?
He's like, this society is barbaric.
Dude, it's so funny.
It's wonderful. I was like, we love a sex-positive king. Like,
yes. But what he doesn't go, like, Christian Grey's like, I'm, what do you say? I'm correcting the situation, or I'm amending the situation. Yeah. He's like, well, only one thing left to do.
I gotta deal with this, I guess.
So he decides, he goes,
wait. He
instead of being like, I'm gonna push sex.
Wait, first. He realizes she's a virgin, he also realizes she's his mate. That's important. And he's like, oh, that's why I haven't wanted to fuck any other women. Because at one point he's afraid his dick doesn't work. I thought my dick wasn't working. And so, like, he, like, you know, like, canoodles with her during her dream state, and he's like, well...
He's like, oh, shit, I'm monogamous now.
He's like, that's that question answer. Okay, now the quote-unquote proposal.
So he, instead of being like, I'm just gonna really just orgasm the shit out of her, he's like, there's one thing left to do. I'm going to ask for her hand in marriage. And he comes in to the house one day and is like, Auntie Wumble, the worst has happened. What's the direct quote?
I've compromised
Lilac.
And Lilac comes in and is like, no, wait. First, he specifically comes when Lilac isn't home. Because he's like, she can't be here.
And she hears that he's there, and she is McPissed.
She just, like, she sprints in. She's fucking Tom Cruise in Mission Impossible. Like,
off to go emasculate this man.
And he's like,
again.
I've compromised her. And she's like, no, you fucking haven't. And he's like,
this is important.
She has a kitten-shaped birthmark on the inside of her thigh, which he knows from their nighttime canoodling.
Then Lilac, like the reader, passes out. And just, what did I just hear?
And it's so funny because he uses all these, like, fancy new words, like compromised.
Yeah.
And, like all these, like, Regency Era things that I guess he's, like, I don't know, gathered from Lord Byron or whatever.
Yeah.
And, like, he's like, I'm going to use everything in my arsenal. Because he does it first. He's like, Auntie Wumple, I just want to marry her.
Yeah.
Like, and she's like, you know, it's Violet's decision. And then Violet bursts in.
But she goes, did you really compromise her? And he kind of, like, you know, like Kelly Kapoor in The Office when she's like, well, I hope you're still committed because I'm pregnant. And then she just shakes her head at the camera. Yeah. That's basically, she's like, did you really compromise her? He's like, she's like, oh, you boyish charmer, you.
She's like, I knew I was right about you.
Well, I know that she thinks that she's stuck in a absolutely bananas compromising contract now, but I think it's sweet, and I just want to see her married and settled. I want her to be with this guy that she hates, and because that's love.
And, like, maybe when she, like, goes on vacation, he and I could hook up.
Yeah.
Because we're all going to be living in the same
More
house.
Specifically that one, but yeah.
Poor Lilac has to get married, and he is like, I'm going to fuck you 24/7.
She's like, no, it's going to be a marriage of convenience.
No.
He goes, no, read the above clause. I'm going to fuck you.
He's like, I'm gonna fuck you so much that you're gonna forget what it's like not to have me inside you. And I, at this time, was like,
oh. Golly, I hope
I was like,
home.
why am I excited?
100%,
Why
yes.
is this so exciting?
actually, the lines that made me go, whoo, my stars, was actually not the scenes where anything's happening. It's when he says, this is what I'm gonna do to you. I'm like, oh my god, Dara, not holding back any punches.
Rejar is a dirty talker.
He is a dirty birdie, isn't he?
No, he's a dirty kitty.
He's a dirty kitty. Fat belly. So if you've ever read The Taming of the Shrew, or seen The Taming of the Shrew, and you remember the wedding scene, you don't have to, because the wedding scene is literally what happens in this book.
Is it she down to the pants?
Down to he picks her up. She's like, I'm not gonna do it. I'm leaving. Throws her over the shoulder. The priest and everyone else is too freaked out and intimidated to say, maybe this isn't such a good idea. It sounds like she doesn't want to. And he's like, I do. And she's got this big plan, because she's like, if I can't sneak away in these man clothes.
Yeah, she's wearing pants to her wedding, which I love. I love a historical lady in pants.
But she's trying to look like a boy and escape.
No, I know.
A stable boy.
I just
and he
feel
catches her and throws her over his shoulder.
And pulls her back.
And literally, dumps her on the ground.
She's, trying to climb out the tree outside her window, and she's like, my cat does it all the time. It must be that.
He's like, I know this old book.
Like, I'm familiar with this technique.
I'm fun. What? Oh! God forbid anyone says familiar in this book. Rejar will catch it and snicker.
Of the pun.
He's
and you know what? As he should.
Yeah, for sure. And she's like, okay, if that doesn't work, I have another little trick up my sleeve. Consent is key for me all the time, right? It's worked for me up to this point. So when they say, will you have him? I'll just say no. I will not. And then he sends her a little mind signal and is like, do you want me to put a stop to this? And she yells out loud, yes, I do. And then they're like, I now pronounce you man and wife. And it's like, Lila stood there dumbstruck. She absolutely gobsmacked at the fact that she has sealed her fate.
404 error? What is just happened?
Blue screen. So now comes our wedding night, which is, I don't know, it's chapter 6 at this point. We're
I don't know. Well,
a little less than halfway through. Yeah. So we're like, all right, we're ready. She's
pacing around. She's thinking about how she's going to kick him out. And she says, quote, she's going to toss him right on his taut, compact little rump. She's constantly like, yeah, his really hot butt, or his thighs look so good, but I hate him.
I hate him. His stupid hair and his fat little belly when he's a cat. So he does what any man does and just shows up as an apparition in her room. He has gone through all of the shit that she has been like, he's no way he's gonna get in this room. And he's leaning against the wall and he's like, hey girl, and she's like, oh no. The greatest night of my life is here.
She's throwing shit at him, and
she throws a vase at him.
She throws many things at him.
And he's just kind of like the Matrix. Yeah. Coincidence. He just kind of ducks out of the way.
And then he's like, you know what? This game is getting boring. Let's
just gonna fuck you now.
And he whips off her nightgown. Instead of ripping it, we have a variation on nightgown ripping. He whips off her nightgown and throws it in the fire. Because he's like, you won't be needing...
I missed that.
You won't be needing this anymore.
This whole thing. Nightgowns are for virgins.
And you're not.
You got about 11 more seconds of that nonsense.
But he has to do some weird familiar mating, traditional first fuck mating thing.
Yeah. He's whispering Hakuna Matata in the ear.
But it's the worst position possible if you've never had sex before. And he doesn't even have the decency to get her off
against
first.
The mirror.
He doesn't even eat her out or finger her first.
He takes his minotaur little schlong.
He makes her put her hands up against a mirror.
Yeah. And she's not even looking at him. She's just like, wow! Almost R2-D2 style, just and he's like, no. All right, hold on. I might have gone a little too fast. And then he's like, no, look up. And then she's like, no, don't. With each thrust. And then she's like, shoot.
She does come, but I was like, he's going at her from behind, and I have yet to hear that he's touching her clit. So how is she coming from
No, I was like, dude, she's in the position of I could not want to be in proximity to you any less. And he's just like, let's just railroad this with no lead up. And he's like, oh, my bad. She's untouched. So this is absolutely unbearable right now. But this is excruciating pain.
But after, I mean, in the classic romance style fashion, don't worry, after a few thrusts, she starts to get into it. Like, whatever. Even though, again, he's not touching her clit. His dick is not touching her clit. But he has a curved dick. I do want to point that out.
We know that?
He has a curved dick.
I missed that.
Yes.
Wow.
Yes, he has a curved dick.
Some representation for some of our fellas out there.
So that he can, like, get her G-spot, too. Wow. So, like, maybe, listen, I don't know. Maybe. And
so, whatever. And she's like, okay, good, that's over with.
No, they
and then he's like, no. Did I stutter before? This is going to happen all the time.
24/7.
So it's like 2 a.m. She was like shyly asking for it. 4 a.m. She's like kind of like kicking him. And then like at 6 a.m. she's like screaming and like begging him for it.
Meanwhile, the servants are downstairs like, nice.
Yeah, literally. The servants, again, they're like my favorite characters besides Auntie Wumble. It's just, she, like multiple times in the book, she's like screaming upstairs. And it's like, a beast! Get away! And they're like, oh, young love. Like, no consensual assistance for Lilac this whole book.
One such example of when she's screaming is when he turns into a cat and then she faints.
Oh, that's her little wedding night gift. He's like, by the way, I'm your cat, Rejar.
He's like, haven't you noticed that you've never seen me and your cat in the same room?
Now, ladies, I just want to ask, if your mans are like, you ever notice you've never seen your cat and I in the same room? You just run.
Well, she's already married. Like,
she's stuck.
She's legally not a person anymore.
Can you imagine hearing that? I'm like, are you hiding my cat? Well,
no, but then he turns into the cat.
He does.
And she faints. And then she wakes up and she's like, she just assumes he's in some like black magic shit.
Yes, she's like, a Russian. Yeah, so there's like weird like xenophobia in this.
She's like, he must be like, I don't know, like
black magic. She's Rasputin. Like Rasputin. I almost said Rasputin.
Yeah, everything is explained away by him being Russian.
She's like, you have to promise not to do that anymore. He's like, I cannot promise that. She's like, good. Like, I'm glad you agree with me. He's like, huh?
He's like, I won't do it now.
Like, this second. And she's like, oh, I'm childish. I'm sure.
And at one point, she's like, he was odious, a barbarian. A very cute barbarian.
Just like some like weirdly modern phrasing here and there in the book, but otherwise it's great.
I love it.
And now
his other half-brother arrives.
Which, again, I go, huh? We're adding more plot? Because, by the way, I'm like, oh my god, Dara is just gonna... My apologies, Dara, if you're listening to this. She's just gonna keep introducing these things that are, this will be important down the line. Guy who killed the kid in the carriage at the beginning of the book. You know that's not going to be addressed. Then they introduce a third brother who...
He's a bastard.
Yeah, old stinky wizard man, who we can't remember his name, is like, hello, you need to... And there's some weird bloodline crap that's just not important.
His dad was Voldemort, something like that.
So he's just like, hey, like, you need to go watch your brother, because the other brother is... His wife is literally about to pop. She's so pregnant.
Yeah.
And he's like, okay, fine. Long story short. So he shows up, and he's handsome, but like a different flavor of handsome.
He's like broody.
Very broody. His eyes are the same color, but it's like this like electric green. Electric will come up again later. But yeah, he just like shows up one day, and Rejar's like, okay, like you're here now.
Dude, hello?
Like a little bit cock-blocking name, and he's like, no. He severely doubts that Rejar is like monogamous now. But then he becomes, like, very protective of Lilac when he realizes they have mated. And they are the for real thing.
Yeah, he realizes, he's like, oh, she's my family.
Yeah.
Because I guess he has...
And he's a real ride or die for Lilac and Rejar.
No, he's a cutie pie. He does a lot of stuff
Auntie Wumble loves him.
I thought they were going to fuck. They don't.
I was, like, a little worried.
I really thought Auntie Wumble
no.
fuck, because he definitely checks her out when he first pops up.
He does.
Yeah. Okay, so there's just, like, multiple fucking things, like, that I just need to point out. Like, one, he licks her all the time. Like, nonstop, these fuckers are licking and biting each other.
Yes.
Like, it's wonderful. Also, apparently, there are 5,362 3/4 ways...
3/4?
...to fuck, not including variations. I don't really know. It was like I wrote it down. He's thinking it. He's like...
A STEM king has literally just, like, counted in his brain.
He's like, I've got it.
She's like... She asks him, and then he doesn't say anything, and she starts asking, and he goes, I'm counting, hold on. And then he gives her that number.
You know what? It reminded me of the time in church.
hate where that's going.
I had a Tootsie Pop.
Yeah.
And you know the whole, like, how many licks does it? So I, instead of paying attention to the Bible lesson, I started counting. And my method was one side, licking same spot until we get to the middle. I want to emphasize this. And it is 872.5.
Wow. I remember I tried to do that as a kid and I got to like 300 something and I just bit into it. I was like, I can't take it anymore.
Well, I never bit into Tootsie Pops because I didn't like the middle. So this was purely...
like the Tootsie Roll center of a Tootsie Pop?
No, this was purely experimental for me. And my tongue was so sore. Your tongue really is a muscle, ladies and gentlemen, because my tongue was sore afterward.
Wow, that's like a better personality test than like how you eat an Oreo explains your whatever. It's like, do you eat the Tootsie Center of a Tootsie Pop? The answer about your Myers-Briggs will show you.
You know what I preferred those, the lollipops with the bubble gum inside. You know what I'm talking about? Like
the Hubba Bubba kind of crap inside?
I don't know.
Lollipops with bubble gum inside?
Yes.
That's too much. It was too much work for my mouth.
It was excellent. Those are the ones that I want. I prefer them over Tootsie Pops.
I have a bizarrely small jaw. Like, I have a small mouth. So, like, anything like that was just a ton of work for me. No. I hate that. So I could never handle Rejar.
That's true. He's...
Like, it'd be a nightmare for me.
I don't think she ever gives him a blowjob.
She doesn't. No. He does
because
things for her.
He gets
and that's a whole scene.
On giving her pleasure. That's his whole personality.
Ladies, if you don't have it, find it. Find that.
So, and then at one point they fuck against the door, and then they come downstairs, and the aunt comes in with, like, tray on, and she's like, it's so weird, we heard this really loud banging, like there was a loose shutter outside, and we went outside, but we couldn't find it.
I'm like, Auntie Wumble, you're telling me you haven't wumbled a few times in your life?
I guess not.
You don't, she doesn't know what...
I guess not.
And I love that his brother is just like, yep, must be a loose shutter.
Yeah, definitely that.
He's like, we don't have shutters in our world, but what we do have is what's going on upstairs.
A lot of it. A lot. Listen,
Speaking of Auntie Wumble.
Yeah, at one point, Lilac's like, how many women have you fucked? And he's like, a lot.
She's like, surely not more than 40.
He's like, man, you don't want to know.
I'm like, you have the pox, man.
Don't. Come on. No, because, we never find out whether he's susceptible to the pox. And the pox, the syph is only like an earth thing, so I guess if he's just never fucked an earth woman, like, it's not...
We're good.
He's fine. And I guess alien pox doesn't exist.
Wow.
Not when you have magic.
No.
Not when you have magic.
This world is messed up. There's no magic. We have pox and virgins. What's
adult
next?
Version.
Yeah.
They're gambling. He and Trey go gambling, and they meet the guy who killed the kid. So he's come back.
His name is, I forget.
It's Rot something? Yeah. I don't know. I called him Evil Murderer Rich Man.
So we meet Evil Murderer Rich Man, and the brother's like, are you sure? He's like, I would never forget that face. I go, I forgot about that plot point.
Oh, no, I
So good for you.
I was like, I'm glad that's come back. Wow.
I worked at Starbucks, and like I've taken someone's order, made the drink, and then been the person to hand them that order, and I don't remember if it's the person that I took their drink and their name. So props to him. I guess you should remember someone who killed a little boy, though.
He did swear vengeance. So it's like memorizing a license plate of a hit and run, but like a face.
I just had to start thinking that they like hit a little kid with a carriage, and I would have been a lot better as a barista remembering their names.
I need to pick you out in a lineup.
Yeah. You're all guilty. Anyway.
All right.
So he meets Evil Grumpy Man.
And he's like, Trad's like, want me to take him out for you? And Rejar's like, no, leave him to me. So that's happening in the background. And now we have the embroidery scene.
Again, Lilac is not like other girls. She sucks at embroidery and socializing. Which I guess we should have known that from kind of how they alluded to it in the beginning.
She doesn't have any friends.
Yeah, and like she doesn't have like a sister or like cousins or anything like that. It's just her and Auntie Wumble.
And like Auntie Wumble is not a
And like sometimes her cat who just for no reason leaves sometimes. So all of these silly little wives are talking about their like marriage issues or whatever here and there. And then I think someone alludes to something about sex. And then her ears perk up. And she's like, oh, yes. And how, you know, the licking, they're like,
and the
biting, and they're like, huh? And everyone drops what they're doing, and they're like all leaning in because they know who her smoke show husband is. And she's like, ba, and like, you know, when I finish so soon, and they're like, oh, but don't you mean when he finishes so soon? She goes, oh, no. He takes forever. I finish like 4 or 5 times before he gets there. And this woman drops her scissors. And then Rejar comes in and is like, wife, have come to collect you. She's like, oh, okay. And everyone's staring at her like, he and you and huh?
And he's like, and like, it's like, and several women in the room wanted to put her in the replica sarcophagi.
They're like, we want to stuff her in this like sarcophagi, which is just like in
Get
the
her out
room
of the
for
way.
some reason. And this one girl who apparently is supposed to be her friend, but like a really bad friend, is like, this girl is so boring that there is no way her husband is going to want to be fidelitous to her the whole time.
This is the local hottie widow.
Yes. So Lady Harcourt or something
the
like
rich
that.
hottie widow.
Rich hottie widow is like, oh my god, this is like T-minus a week before he's bored of her. Yes. I will be the first in line.
Yes.
But Lilac's like, no, she's my friend. And he's like, dude, she is not your friend.
She is her friend at the end.
She's her friend at the end, but
yeah. Well, she spends this whole book trying to fuck Rejar
before she knows that he is like trying to be with Lilac, she like barges into his room at Lord Byron's house while he's bathing, and she's like, oh my, and he like literally manhandles her out of the bathroom. So
with his he just like back with his dick. With his giant sword.
That's right. But yeah, she's like, oh, this bish. After the famous embroidery scene.
The embroidery scene, she gives him the embroidery. And
he wants it.
It's so bad. And he's like, no, it's so shitty.
He's like, I know what it is. It's a lilac.
Yeah, no, she thinks he's like taking the piss out of her first. But then he like genuinely likes it. And she's like, oh, he's so nice.
And like that, which is, I mean, you know, she sucks at embroidery. And he's like, oh, no. I know what that is. It's supposed to be a lilac. And it's like a place that she messed up.
Yeah.
Like, no, that's so beautiful. We don't have things like that where I'm from. And she's like, all right, I want to have 15 orgasms again. You talked me into it.
She's like, babies?
Yeah.
And I just became pregnant.
Which I just like that.
The fact that she's not pregnant by the end of this book is astounding to me.
Truly did think they were going to have her be pregnant at the end because they were like, she's like, oh, something about babies. He's like, no. And then he's like, I'm not going to get into the
mating ritual.
Yeah. And they never go there.
Don't. I'm assuming that's going to happen in
it's all about will they, won't they fall in love. Yes. And I think it's around this time that Rejar is like, I'm feeling very protective. Like, he really gets a kick out of her. Yeah. Like, he's just like, she's really pouty, and I feel the need to protect her and, like, hold her and, you know, whatever, compliment her kind of a thing. And she is still, like, she is in throes of, like, passion and fire and crap like that. She can't get enough. But when it's over, she is so annoyed by this man. Like, if you've seen Gone with the Wind, she is as fed up with him for as long as Scarlett O'Hara is with Rhett Butler. Yeah. Like, she is just continuously like, oh my god, he's so annoying and he's so irksome.
But you know what? Much as I love Rhett Butler, Rejar definitely gives more orgasms.
For sure.
I don't think we ever get an orgasm in Gone with the Wind. I feel like Rhett Butler.
That scene where he picks her up and they go upstairs, that's
she
all
wakes
19
up.
chapters of this book.
Yeah. Except you don't close the door.
You don't close it down. There's no blackout.
No fade to black.
Exactly.
The flashlights are on. Yeah. So the local hottie widow keeps going for Rejar, and Treyad is like, this bitch needs to be put down, and by put down I mean seduced. Yeah. And so he like fucks her, and he's like, don't talk to my brother.
And she's like, okay.
And then they meet the rich evil man again, and he makes mean innuendos about Lilac, and Rejar is like, I will literally rip your heart
legit out of your body.
I
was like, the shivers. He's like, how about we wager 50,000 pounds? And on top of that, like, you know, if you lose, I get to, like, sleep with your wife. And Rejar just looks up and is like, I will rip the heart out of any man who talks that way about my wife. And his brother is like, oh, what a drama king.
He's like, rip his heart. You can just use a sword.
Use a sword.
You don't have to rip his heart.
He's like the drama.
Yeah, but he beats him at cards, but this guy is like a really good swordsman, and
he's like, I'm not giving you 50,000 pounds.
And he's like known for like when he loses big, he like instead of paying the debt, he'll like accuse someone of cheating.
Duel, yeah.
And therefore there needs to be a duel, and so like that's his plan for Rejar. But he doesn't know that Rejar is a super swordsman, Super Saiyan.
Like an alien.
Yep.
Like one literally just
one might say
Goku. I think that kind of goes like, again, we kind of minimize that point for a little bit, because then it goes to, if I'm not wrong, Rejar is like talking to his brother and is like, crap, I'm really worried that I mated with someone who doesn't love me. And I'm like, oh. I'm like, wait, you've been so annoying this whole book. It's just like, all there is to me is that I am dripping in gorgeousness. And it's like, oh no, yet the abs have feelings. No.
And because he's like, he just wants her to call him Rejar, but like she won't. She's like, that's a cat name.
It's so my cat's name.
She keeps calling
You're
him
gaslighting
Nikolai.
me.
She keeps calling him Nikolai, and he's like, no, my name is Rejar, and she won't call him that, and he's so sad. And then they have an angry fuck, and he, instead of getting undressed, I told you it would come back that it's important that he is naked when he transforms, because instead of getting undressed, he just transforms into a cat and then back, so his clothes are just on the floor.
So then she's shook and also like unprepared for sex, but then they have the greatest night of her life. She like orgasms like freaking like 17 times or something like that, and every time he's like, what's my name? What's my? And it's like,
and she won't.
Yeah, what's my name? But literally, she's like, it's Nikolai. It's Nikolai.
And then they do the 900 strokes of love, which is, I guess, the
Karma Sutra of this world.
It's some, like, mating ritual or whatever, but it's, like, the mating rhythm. Like, he's, like, it takes over, like, everyone knows how to dance to the mating. I don't know.
Gosh.
I don't know. But then he's sad, and then he goes to brood, and he's, like, drinking some sort of alcohol, and then he throws the glass at the wall, and he's like, it shattered into 1,000 pieces. Like his heart.
Oh my god. The sensitive king.
The himbo?
Oh my god.
God damn it.
And his brother like gives him some advice or something. And basically the advice, which is like, oh, okay, is like, hey, maybe don't be so available. And he's like, she's my wife and I'm a familiar and we're supposed to fuck. And he's like, I know, but you gotta let there be more to the relationship than just sex. Like, you need to, like, actually let her get to know you and miss you and stuff like that. And he's like, that is fucked up, but I'll try it. Okay, I just want her to love me.
Yeah. Yeah, but then he overcorrects. So, like, she's upstairs, like, they just had, like, angry sex.
Oh, and this made me actually sad.
And then he's, like, ignoring her because he's like, no, I can't touch her, like, because we can't bone, like, I'm following Trey's advice. Yeah. And she just thinks he's not into her. He, like,
turns her back to her, and she's literally she was already crying.
Sobbing.
And then she's, like, really sobbing, and then he's, like, heartbroken because he's like, I want to, like, console her, because he's super protective of her.
Oh.
And she actually is just like, oh, I feel so alone right now. And, like, where he would normally be, like, all over me, it's like, I'm getting rejected. I don't think he even likes me anymore.
Yeah, he's like, he's bored with me. He's not into me. He doesn't want to have sex. Like, she tries to initiate a few times, and, like, he doesn't really go for it.
Yeah.
It's so sad.
It is sad. Oh. I was like, wait, I'm, like, really caring about these characters now. Oh, my God.
What the fuck?
She's not just annoyed, and he's not just horny. Oh, my gosh. So, what happens next?
Okay, so we take a little break from the relationship issues, and Treyad goes on a side quest. And this side quest is to go confront the rich murderer man, because the rich murderer man has been slandering Rejar's name all over town. And first of all, I love the running gag is that they mispronounce his name, which I didn't bother to write down, but they do consistently mispronounce his name on purpose.
It's like Roach versus like Roch or something like that.
They pronounce it Rot.
Yeah.
And then, but it's like something else. And like, they're consistent, like every time. They're just completely mispronouncing it. And I just love it. Like, they're fully on purpose.
It's like,
they're like
Weaseltown. It's
Weaselton. Yeah, so he goes and he's like, stop talking shit about my brother. And the guy's like, why don't we just duel right now? And Treyad is like, well, this is what I've been sent here to do, to protect Rejar. So, like, this is what it is. And I was like, ho, 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 sir, but there's still 16% left in the book. There's 2 hours in this audiobook. I know this isn't, you think, but it's actually going to be something else. So they have a little sword fight, And Treyad, like, gives him so many opportunities to, like, be cool and, like, not be a dick.
Because he, like, his brother is like, I absolutely hate the idea of hurting or taking the life of a weaker being.
Yeah.
That's why, like, Rejar's so disgusted by the child, like, getting hit by the carriage. And even, like, Treyad is, like, super, like, oh, I have to be, you know, honorable and protect my brother and blah, blah, blah. He's like, dude, don't make me do this. You are going to lose.
Yeah.
And you're going to lose quickly.
Whoa. But yeah, so he gets it. He's like, they're like fighting, and then like you think Treyad's gonna be cornered, and this guy's about to stab him, and then Treyad's like, "That was your last chance, bitch! I'm a lefty!" and like tosses the sword into the other hand, and he's like, "Ha ha! Like I was fighting with my non-dominant hand this whole time." And then he obviously beats him, and he stabs him right through the heart.
Yeah.
And we also learned the rich guy ran over the kid on purpose. The rich guy,
Can you explain that to me? Because he's like, oh, how could he have known that? And it was something about, like, his, like, pleasure.
He likes to cause pain to weaker beings, is what it seems to be. Like, he likes, like, destroying things. And the rich guy's like, how did you know?
For the kid.
Yeah, he killed the kid on purpose.
Pretty fucked up.
And I was like, you didn't suffer enough, frankly. Okay, so now back to our regular scheduled program. We're back to the relationship issues. Lilac goes to Rich Widow Hottie because she thinks she's her friend, and she goes to her advice. And Rich Widow Hottie is like, this is perfect. This is the opportunity I have been looking for.
Like, on a silver platter. I could just ruin this relationship and your life with anything.
But then, like, the Hottie Widow is actually a complex character. And she's not just a one-dimensional, like, other woman, because she's like, I used to be young and innocent once, until the world robbed me of that, and I look at
the world, her husband. Yes. She's like, literally, my husband was the worst. It made me awful.
Yeah, thank God he's dead, frankly. And yeah, she's like, I have, what is this feeling? Like, is this compassion?
And she's like, and I just had to be, you know, give her the sound advice while I could before I literally threw up from this feeling.
But immediately after Lilac leaves with her sound advice,
she's like, just go and say that you want to sleep with him because he's your husband and you care about him. And she's like, oh, thank you so much, friend. I knew you had a good heart. And she's like, ugh, not really. And
then Treyad comes in and he's like, you get a reward for that.
And then they just bone and then that's it.
If she's not his love interest, I'm going to be kind of upset.
Oh, it's gotta be.
Okay, so they make up and they fuck. But she still won't tell him that she loves him.
This is Lilac and...
Yes.
Yeah, Rejar.
Yeah, sorry about that.
/ Nikolai.
Yeah, but then Lilac gets sick. Because there's
split. This is what I talked to you on the phone earlier. I said, okay, I'm a little confused about this ending. Why is she... I thought they were going to say she's pregnant. She's suddenly sick with this, like, horrible chill.
They did introduce this, like, a few chapters earlier. It wasn't super earlier, but a few chapters earlier, they do mention that, like, they're like, oh, this woman... Like, someone that, like, she was talking to at a party, like, several chapters ago. She's like, they're like, oh, this woman is, like, homesick. Like, she's, like, there's something going around. Like, she's really sick. So they do introduce that there's like, a bad sickness going around.
Okay. What do we think it's supposed to be? Like, the sweat?
I think it's just, like, the flu or something.
Oh, my God.
You know what I mean? Like, a really bad...
Well,
it's COVID.
Keep that in mind,
it's
everyone.
COVID.
She has the flu.
No, she has COVID.
She has COVID. And then the worst, like, the craziest crap ensues.
He's so worried.
He is so worried.
Reads to her, but he like, she's been teaching him how to read in English because he didn't know how to read English.
Yeah, instead of having sex with her, he's been playing a lot of chess with his brother and asked her to teach him how to read.
But she's gonna die. She's gonna die.
Yeah.
And he's like, I gotta save her. And he's like, the last book, I saved my brother from a weird poison. Because the doctor is like, there's a poison in the blood. That's why she's sick. Which, like, I guess.
How do they know it's a poison?
Well, that's why they did, like, bloodletting and, like, leeches.
So he doesn't know, but he's like, if my doctoral experience.
He's like, the way it's been phrased. He's like, the way it's phrased, he phrases a poison. And, like, last book, I saved my brother from poison by becoming a ball of light and sucking the poison out of her or something.
Which sounds way more effective than you putting little leeches all over my wife.
Yeah, he does this weird ball of light shit, but it's dangerous. And Treyad is like, no, don't, but it's too late. And then so he saves...
Wait, so it's important, right? He's like, okay, he as in Rejar is like, I'm going to do this light crap.
I mean, whatever.
Or whatever. His brother's also in the room.
Yeah.
That's important.
Yes.
So what happens when he tries to do the light thing?
So he does the light thing successfully. and he takes the poison.
And if you're confused about what the light thing is, so are we.
It's magic.
It's literally, it's just magic light
thing. Aliens.
Yeah.
Don't question it. Like, he heals her. He turns into a ball of light and he heals her. That's all you need to know. She's fine. Lilac is in the clear.
Yep.
But then Rejar, because he doesn't have control of his powers, which is something that is introduced, I guess, to be explored in, like, future books, because, like, that's kind of how this book ends. Because he doesn't have control of his powers, like, for whatever reason, like, he can't successfly, like, turn back into... Yeah, he can't recover from, like, sucking out the poison. So he's about to die. And then, like, Treyad is like, no! And he puts... Treyad begins to heal his generational trauma. And he's like, I'm this super powerful wizard, and I must put aside my anger at my super powerful Voldemort father alien father, and use my powers to save Rejar.
Yes.
And so he shoots him with lightning. That's why it's important.
As you do, yeah.
Shoots him with lightning, I guess. And then Rejar becomes a human again. But he's not in the clear yet. He's like, now he's just gonna, like, die in human form.
Yeah.
So Violet's like, no! And Treyad is like,
Violet's
no!
up, by the way. She's ready to roll. No recovery, she's pains
ready.
at all.
No, she's fine. She does have, like, dark circles under her eyes, indicative of, like, a long illness.
Yes.
But, so then they have to call the spooky old magic man from the alien planet.
Yes.
And the spooky old magic man apparently has been able to get there, like, the whole time, and but has chosen not to help until now. So he arrives and, like, saves
a real
Rejar.
Gandalf, if you will.
He saves it. He's like, I'll let it pass.
Yep.
And yeah, so no, Rejar's coming back to life, and then they're all like, we gotta go back to the home planet, and Rejar is gonna train his magic, and Treyad is gonna go to therapy, and Rejar is like, you're gonna come with me.
You too, Aunt.
Auntie
Wumble.
Aunt. Like,
and Auntie Wumble, who's like a billionaire, is like, well, what am I going to do with all my things? And then the maid comes in, and she's like, now you're the richest maid in the world.
Yeah.
That's it.
Class consciousness. Love it.
Yep.
Love it. Yeah, so then they all go back, and he calls her a suk, like that's his like nickname for her, which apparently is like a cute animal from his alien planet. Mm-hmm. And he goes there and he's like, I'm gonna get a pet for you. It's a suk. And I was
like, oh, knee slaps.
Oh, and I forgot. She finally confesses her love while he's dying.
Yeah.
And he's like, I was dying, but I still heard it.
That's right.
No takesies backsies.
That's right. I'm so happy that we picked this one.
I'm so happy you got this one. I was like, wow. I'm so glad I don't have to wait a long time to read them.
Absolutely.
Delicious. Thank you so much to the listener for suggesting. What they did, it was like another podcast did this book. Yeah. And then they just tagged us in the comments. And was like,
awesome.
And was like, you need to see this. Like, not the podcast. Like, a listener was like, you need to see this book. And I was like...
I feel like I've witnessed a miracle.
Oh, thank God. I just, like, my excitement, I was like... I creamed a little when I finished reading that.
Like, Rejar's little cat ears perked up when you said that.
All right. Cat scale.
Like 1,000.
I feel like 10 out of 10 doesn't do this book.
It doesn't do it justice. Because of just the absolute, like, the WWE SmackDown that is the man is the cat.
No, because it's not even.
And it's she is like, I would rather die than say you're a cat. And I'm like, you're adding to.
But his whole personality is right. He's not just a cat. His whole personality.
But he like winks like a cat. His eyes flash like a cat.
He leaves her little presents outside her door. Like it's
not making that up. He leaves little treats outside of her door. He's got a fat belly.
I just feel like it's when he's a cat. I just feel like we're never going to read a book because there's shifter romance, right? And a shifter romance is like person, like usually the guy can transform into an animal, right? They're like the Twilight werewolves, except like they can turn into whatever animal.
But like house cats.
And we've done like a dragon shifter book, and like so like, you can have like lion shifters and like panther shifters. That's what there usually is. They're usually like these big like manly cats. Mm-hmm. But this is a house cat. And I just feel like that is
who is
so...
stalking his prey like a powerful dom.
Special.
Yeah. When I think of like a powerful, like, just smoldering masculinity dom figure, I think of a tiny house cat too, Dara Joy. It's not like it's a panther. It's a little guy. You know what I'm saying? It's a little man. With a fat belly.
Yeah.
Freaking washboard abs. Like, oh my God, you could grate cheese on this shit.
I just feel like not, yeah.
So I would say like 100 out of 10. Like, what do you want from me?
We'll do
the
11.
Absolute max.
We'll do 11.
Fine.
I'm gonna break a rule. We don't go over 10.
It's
But
so on the nose. It's
10.
like they wrote this for the podcast.
It's gotta be 11 out of... Dara Joy listen, people can see the future in these books. The weird old magic man can see the future.
Yeah.
Dara Joy is actually the weird old magic man.
What are you, 96?
She saw the future.
Yeah.
And she was like, I have to write
She
this
knew.
book. Oh my god. What a choice.
Dara, thank you for your service.
Thank you. All right. Catskill 11 out of 10. Dana, is there anywhere that you want them to be able to find you?
No, I'm not on social media. I'm very boring. But just support this podcast. Tell your friends about it. Yeah, really. Spread the word. This is so fun to do. And I'm always laughing. So absolutely. Support, share it with your friends, and read these books.
Yeah.
Anyway,
Thank you for
letting me read
us.
this.
Yeah. Thank you for choosing this. Thank you for suggesting it. Listen, thank you.
Thank you,
so
listener.
Grateful. You can support us by following us on Instagram, TikTok, and Facebook at We Read It One Night, on Twitter at We Read It Podcast. You can email us, wereaditone@gmail.com, and free way you can support us is by rating and reviewing wherever you're listening, and also by following us and engaging with content, etc., etc. But a non-free way...
Support our fat bellies.
Help me feed my spoiled ass cats by clicking the links in the description of this episode or on the link tree on any of our social media stuff, where you can buy us a coffee to support the podcast for $5. You don't even have to make an account, or you can go on our Etsy and get some sweet, sweet gear. Godspeed, comrades.
Thanks, guys.
No.
What? Godspeed. Comrades.
No, just Godspeed.
Godspeed.